All right, we're going to move on to our rear spring front hanger, like so. These mounts are universal between sides, so again, they're not side specific. So we showed you removing the existing bracket. What we didn't show at that time was there are also 4 rivets on the bottom that tie into the cross member that runs across. We do have to remove these 4 rivets because our bracket ends up bolting through them as well, just to add some more strength to the bracket itself. So what we're going to do here is we're going to use our cutoff wheel and air hammer method to remove these. We're going to cut them all off, grind them down and get them flush, but we're not going to drive them all out yet. I'll show you when we get to that, but we're only going to probably drive out 2 of them. We'll oversize them just slightly with a drill bit that's just slightly bigger than 3/8, so you can ensure you have enough clearance to get 3/8 bolt in there. And then that way we can actually finish drilling these out, mop the whole bracket up, and you can bolt those in and then drive the other 2 out and get your bolts in. That way you don't have to fight with realigning this cross member in here with those holes. So that's the reason why we're not going to go ahead and drive those all the way out. But we'll get started by slicing the rivet heads. Alright. Swap our air hammer out here. Chisel. We're going to go on and knock 2 of those rivets out. I'm going to leave the other 2 in for the time being. Again, if you're doing this with a drill bit and drilling them, at this point you would have drilled out, chiseled the head off, but you'd want to go ahead and take your grinder and grind them flush so they're flush with the frame. And then you would just want to take your center punch with a hammer and knock 2 of them out. Preferably, it doesn't really matter which 2 you knock out, as long as it's one at the front, one at the back. I do the same. I'm going to actually take the 2 that are inside closest to one another and knock those out first. You see, they can be a little tight since they're going through 2 pieces of metal. So if you're doing it with a hammer, it may take you a little bit to get those knocked out. Since we got those 2 out, we're going to go ahead and enlarge those 2 holes just a little bit. We're actually going to enlarge them to a 13/32, which is 32nd over a 3/8 drill bit. At this point, we elongated them, and we're going to go ahead and drill our 6 holes out here to the 15/32. All right. Now we should be able to go ahead and bolt the bracket up here. All right, so sometimes in order to get the lower 3/8 holes to line up perfect, you may need to go on and tighten up. Normally, if you've already slightly just hand tightened the top two, go ahead and snug up your bottom two to help pull the bracket to the frame. Sometimes you may just have like an 1/8 inch gap there that will keep your bolt from going in the bottom. Snug up these top two as well. Again, you're not having to fully tighten them yet or anything, just enough to help us get our 3/8 bolts in the bottom. At this point, we should be able to stick them on in there. So that one goes on in. All right. And then you may need to, this one is lined up pretty good. Maybe just take your ratchet, kind of thread in there just a little bit. Again, if you use a clearance bit for the 3/8 bolt about 30 seconds over, you should be able to get it in. It should line up fairly close. If for some reason it still does not after you've pulled the frame in, pulled the bottom of the bracket in, you may need to remove it and slightly elongate or line drill through the bottom plate and through the frame to get your bolt line up. Again, there are slight variances with each frame, slight variances in each bracket as we make them. So we made every effort for it to fit as easy as possible. Sometimes you just need to, you've got to align them just a little bit. Go and slightly tighten up those two 3/8 bolts. Those two are in. So we've got these 6 in, we've got 2 of the bottom 3/8. Now we've actually got to drive the other 2 rivets out that we did not of the 3/8. Again, we didn't drive those out yet, so the cross member stays aligned up. Definitely helps keep 2 of them in there so you don't have to fight with aligning the cross member back whenever you're doing this. This one being a little bit of a pain here. Looks like it actually doesn't want to come out of the bracket on the back side. Peek in around back here. You can actually see this one is trying to gap created here where it's just trying to drive up out of the cross member itself. So we'll actually take our chisel here and see if we can break it loose of that cross member. Maybe that'll help us be able to drive it on out the rest of the way. As you can see, just because we used what's considered the easy method, doesn't mean it always wants to cooperate as you would think it would. We're going to try to re-chisel it again on the back side here. Alright, we finally got that stubborn rivet out of there. As I said, just because you're using the air hammer and using this method doesn't always make it easy. The rivets can still be stubborn to get out of there, but finally we were able to chisel that head up and get it loose and spinning in the member, and it popped on out. Alright, so at this point you should be able to just go ahead and, if you're lucky and the cross member didn't move, those bolts will go right on in without having to drill them out. Be able to get them thread on up in there. Close enough.
All right. Now, if for some reason they didn't line up still, so we got the center two in, which means you should be close. You can always use the punch to try to help wiggle it around a little bit. If that doesn't work, then you can always go back and take the drill bit, the 32nd larger than 3/8 drill bit we used, and line ring through there. Will help you, will allow you to get the bolt in. Again, there's a little bit of variation in each frame. If it's, one frame slightly warped from the other, you may just have a little bit of variation. Technically, the hole should still be pretty close if they were riveted to that member, but there's always a slightly different scenario depending upon what truck you're working on. And then we're just going to go ahead and tighten up these bottom 4 3/8 bolts. All right, so tighten them up, and then we'll tighten up our front 6 7/16 bolts. Make sure they're been snugged up. All right, now at this point, we've snugged everything. We go back, torque all 6 of the 7/16 bolts to 50 foot-pounds, the 4 3/8 on the bottom to 40, and you're done. All right, we're gonna move on to putting our reverse shackle bracket on the rear here. Start off with, just to show you the bracket, so we'll go up here like so. You'll have the notch towards the rear, so there's a left-hand, right-hand specific one. The clearance right here, so your shackle won't hit the bracket whenever it articulates. So to begin with, we need to drill out these 4 holes to a 15/32. That's a clearance for a 7/16 bolt. You can use a 7/16 drill bit if you want to, but it will make it possibly a little bit more difficult to get all the hardware up there, so we like to always oversize it for our actual clearance hole for the bolt we're using. So we'll begin with that. All right, once those are oversized, we're actually going to mott the bracket up because we have 2 bolt holes on the bottom that will need to be drilled. We did remove 2 rivets from the bottom, but they're really close to the outside edge of the frame, so we opted to actually move these bolt holes further to the inside to be able to grab the frame better. So we'll have to actually stick the bracket up there and mark the location where those bolt holes need to be drilled. We just roughly stick the bolts in there. Get a good idea. Hold that up there. Make sure you keep it aligned. Got a paint marker here. And we'll go under here. Mark 2 locations for those bolts. All right. We'll check. All right, those look good. So we'll take our about a 1/4 inch drill bit, and we'll use that to start the hole. All right, so our pilot holes are drilled. We'll go back to our 15/32. Sure your drill doesn't get wrapped up on you when you're drilling those. And then we should be able to bolt our bracket right on there. Actually, recommend the washers go to the inside against the nut.
all the bolts are in. We're just gonna go ahead and tighten all those up. All right, now we just snugged them up with our hand tools here, but at this point you want to go back and torque all the hardware to right at 50 foot-pounds is our recommendation for these particular bolts with the crimp nuts, 7/16 grade 8 bolts with the crimp nuts. And you're complete on the rear brackets.